Well, we wanted for you to explain to us explain the chore and what does it take to face a running quarterback. I mean, it's really the first true, real double threat, I would think, this year. He really does a lot with his leg.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like every week in some capacity we got a guy that can run. If you go back to Zeno at UAB, Finley wasn't much of a runner, but the backup was the kid from Arkansas. You got to have a plan each week for how you're handling a runner. I think it depends, too, on are you playing coverage and you've got 3 or 4 rushers, or are you pressuring, right? So you can do it either way, but there's spokes and there's lanes you got to stay on, and we got to make sure we're disciplined. Obviously, that's the number one thing. In our rush lanes, and we talk about on the edge, staying on the cliff, can't run off the cliff. You open up the cliff, now there's big B gaps he can run through, right? That's in the pass game. Now, these guys are probably as good of a quarterback run team, design quarterback run that we've seen. I think they're really good at running the zone read. And they got – to me, it's all about personnel. But the good thing for us is we see it all the time in practice. You're going back to training camp and you're looking at Zion Chris and Zylan Perry or Zion and Dre Lynn, whoever those running backs are. I mean, you got 2 athletes back there that can hurt you, and you better have at least 2 for 2, if not 3 for 2, when you're doing the numbers. So, I think we're fortunate in the sense that we get to see it every day in practice. But again, when you're rushing the passer, it's about having spoke integrity. We talk about, staying on our spoke if it's a 4-man rush. And if obviously when we're pressuring, now we got a different mentality. We're trying to get at them and close the walls a little bit. But there'll be a little bit of both. And, whatever we're doing, we got to be disciplined in it.
When you really can throw, because he can throw it too, and you run the zone read, what complicates having the zone read for a team that can also throw, not just a true running?
Yeah, I think, it just changes your math a little bit, right, in terms of where you want the numbers. I think we always the way we design our defense, we try to play 11 on 11. We don't ever want to play, 11 on 10. Sometimes when you do play with a post player, that guy's not necessarily helping you in the run game. So we don't, not a big post safety team, if you will. But that's part of the math when you design the defense and you play college football. You got a running quarterback. I mean, even, if it's not somebody that majors in it, most quarterbacks can do it in some capacity. So, that's, kind of the way we're set up. And like I said, this team is probably the best team at running the zone read that we've seen. And it's a big byproduct of the personnel. That kid's a good player. We saw him a couple years ago, and he's gotten better since then. I really do believe that. I think he can hurt you, and he is hurting teams. He by himself has a large portion of their production as an offensive unit. He does it running and throwing. He's physical. He's not a slider. He's going to run it up in there, man. So he's going to be a hell of a challenge. But our guys know, they know the deal and they'll be ready for it.
How do you, because I think we hear coaches talk all the time about matching speed with speed or matching physicality with physicality. When you're trying to match what their offense presents, what does that, maybe I'm not asking the right question here, but how do you, from a defensive standpoint, how do you match what you get out of what they do?
Yeah, I think you always want to have like athletes on the field based on the personnel they're playing in. I think that's, week to week you see that. But the good thing for us is our guys, and we recruit that way, is they can do both. They can play big boy football, or if you want to make it a track meet, we can do that too. So, we always try to play to our strengths, obviously, but I think we've got athletes all over the field at all levels. I think we probably have we talked about it over the summer, probably the fastest front 7 I've been a part of. They run well and they love a good fist fight. So, there's, I don't think, for us, the benefit of having that versatility is you don't need to, really reinvent the wheel each week. It's like, all right, they got to deal with us more than we got to deal with them.
They, before I get to that, they're running back. I got a chance to see the game because y'all weren't playing Saturday, and they look pretty good. Their running back runs hard, finishes, can catch. How unique is he compared to some of the other backs that y'all face this year? It seemed like
he's different, man. He's different. He's big. He's physical. You talk about the kid from Texas State, the Mahdi kid, different kind of runner. Mahdi is a hell of a running back. This guy is, we've got the good thing, again, just like we have an athletic quarterback, we got 4 or 5 running backs that are really good players. You talk about Jacob Cabody, Terrence Williams, obviously Dre Lynn, physical backs. And we've had them here for years, going back to Regis. And, we get good work working against big physical backs. I think, it's great because we do good on good at practice, and we get very like looks. Yesterday we're in team run. We got to look almost identical to the play that Georgia State's going to run with the same running back, with the same scheme and the same track. And it was like I told our guys that this is what it's going to be. You got to wrap up. You got to run your feet. You got to gang tackle. You got to square people up and use your pads. Pad level's got to be huge, right? You got to get underneath them and run your feet. And we do tackling circuit, twice a practice, every practice. So it's why I believe we're one of the better tackling teams, not just in the conference but in the country, because we work it from January. Starting when you don't have pads on, we'll work in the angles, the approach, the eye discipline, where your eyes need to be, your footwork. To once you put the pads on in July. Now we are working physical one-on-one tackle drills every week, certainly every day in practice. So, our guys will be ready for it. And credit to him, he's a hell of a back. I mean, he's going to bring it. I mean, it's prime time for everybody. He's going to bring it, and it's going to be a hell of a challenge. But our guys will be ready for it.
They've been running the ball for a long time. Last five, like they physical. Like when y'all beat them over here a couple of years ago, they had a physical running back. So obviously their offensive line is part of all that. And he's an old offensive line coach. So like, what is it that their offensive line does maybe better than some of the other teams y'all play that you can see on film?
I think they get behind their coach. They buy into their identity as an offense, and they want to lean on you, and they are physical. But we've played some big old lines. Buffalo was huge. Minnesota was big. And we've played some athletic O-lines over the last couple of years. So, again, I think for them, it's the buy into their system. I don't think, I think they ask him to do, very limited, in the run game. They don't try to trick you. They coming right after your ass a little bit. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, my bad. But that's what they're doing in a run game. They're not shy about it. They do some unique things with their tight ends. I think as an offensive lineman, I think if you could, run block every play, I think they'd sign up for that. I don't think they like going backwards. So I think they buy into it, they enjoy it, and they embrace, what their head coach is asking them to do. But I do remember 2 years ago, there's no doubt that was physical. There's no doubt that back was physical. They got their point across, but we won the game. We're looking to do the same thing this time around. But I got a lot of respect for the way they do it, man. Not a lot of teams are willing to line up and run the ball play after play after play after play after play. And I'll never forget they did that night. There was one drive where they might have handed it off 13 out of 14 plays. And I don't know if I've seen that before. And credit to them and who they are and their identity. And it challenged us. They went and scored on that drive, but, obviously we won the game and grateful for that. But, excited about, a chance to do it again Saturday night.
So to that end, you guys being able to disrupt their schedule, I'm assuming that's got to be something that you guys have talked about this week, getting them second and third.
Sure, man. That's with any offense. You want to get them off schedule, but certainly a team that wants to roll it in there for a couple of yards each time and keep doing it. Got to be able to create negatives. I think that's always a big part of it. But at the same time, they don't ask, the scheme does not ask them to do a lot in terms of the numbers in the run game and the angles and all that, but formationally they get into quite a bit. You got to be smart with how many variables, you're trying to match. If they got a million things going on, you might not necessarily want a million things going on, because that you put all this together, now it's a million times a million. That's a lot of different variables. You got to get them behind the sticks, no doubt. But I think it's with physicality, with technique, like I said, creating negatives, looking at the right stuff in the run game, playing with great eyes, and then, tackling really well.
Y'all linebackers have played really well in both areas this year. But what's the key in a matchup against somebody who does really good at both? For your linebacker? Yeah,
I think, one play at a time focus, man. I think one play at a time focus is always the key for us. And, I've kind of said that to my guys for years. Like, you can't worry about third down. If it's 1st and 10, play 1st and 10. Then play 2nd and 6, whatever it might be, right? One play, one drive at a time. And then, the name of the game is have one more point than they do by the end of it, right? So, just keep doing your job over and over again physically, right? Technique is where it all starts. Inside hands, good pad level, knock it back, tackle well, and let the game come to you a little bit, right? Don't try to play outside the scheme. Just handle one play at a time, do your job. And it's worked for us this year, like you mentioned, man. Really proud of, the whole defense, the way we've played, and certainly the front seven, really good 6 games.
I know you have some guys that have a lot of experience, and then mixed in with some guys who are, getting that first significant taste. But what's different about your group from 6 weeks ago to now?
Good question, man. I think that, speaking specifically, I think that Cam Whitfield's had a really good 6 weeks. He was somebody who had a really good offseason. And, I think what's really cool is you get to see the buy-in from the rest of the group, that if you practice really well, you will play really well. It's like Cam was practicing unbelievably during training camp. He had a good spring ball, but an even better training camp. And I told him, I was like, he made all these plays in training camp, but he had nothing to show for it, right, as far as the world knew. And I said, listen, Steph Curry didn't walk out there. He wasn't Steph Curry before the lights came on, right? He practiced really well first, and then he went out there and he became that guy once he had the opportunity. Here's your opportunity. And he's practiced, and the group is buying in. And obviously be remiss if I didn't talk about Guidry. Guidry's been unbelievable. Those two guys really excited about how they've played. And then we're coming a long way as a group. You know what I mean? And you got obviously George and Fight in there doing a good job. And, what Gant's done is incredible. I think they're hungry. I think they know they can do it now. Might be the short answer is they know they can do it. And there's not that alpha maybe that's been in there in the past. Andre Jones, draft pick, ain't in there. Chauncey Manac, NFL player, ain't in there. Joe Dillon ain't in there. So it truly is a team group effort, probably more so than it's ever been in that room. And the kids buy in, man. And they love it. They play for each other. It's a good relationship. Those guys are going out for dinner all the time. They spend time with each other when they're not in the facility. And as a coach, that's all you want, man. You want to build the camaraderie first, and then you can talk about the football, right? But you got to get the buy-in to each other, the accountability towards each other, and then kind of the magic happens from there.